She made over $2 million a year. She held a degree from one of the most prestigious business schools on earth. She advised billion-dollar corporations. She was, by every measure, one of the sharpest minds in the room. And for 12 years, she had absolutely no idea who her husband really was. Not his name, not his past, not what he was capable of. This is the story of the man who built a prison out of a last name. Her name for this story is Sarah. She was brilliant, driven, and methodical. She didn't make impulsive decisions. She built her career on analysis, on evidence, on logic. By her early 30s, she was one of the most respected consultants at a top global firm. She earned more in a week than most people earn in a year. She met him at a social gathering in New York City in the early 1990s. His name, he told her, was Clark. Clark from one of the most famous families in American history. Old money, old name, old power. He didn't flash cash. He didn't brag. He was quiet about it, actually, which made it more convincing. He said the truly wealthy don't need to prove anything. He was eccentric, intellectual, deeply well-read. He quoted obscure literature. He talked about art, history, science. Sarah had met a lot of impressive people. Clark felt different. There were small things that didn't quite fit. He had no driver's license, no passport, no credit cards in his name. When she noticed, he smiled and said, "Old families don't need paperwork. Everyone knows who we are." It sounded odd, but it also sounded like something an old money eccentric would say. So she filed it away and moved on. That one moment, that small, strange explanation, was the first brick in the wall. They married in 1995, and the moment the door closed behind them, Clark began to change. It didn't happen all at once. That's never how it works. At first, it was small adjustments. He started walking Sarah to and from work every day. Sweet, she thought, attentive, protective. Then he began commenting on her friendships. This person was a bad influence. That colleague wasn't trustworthy. One by one, the people around Sarah began to disappear, not because she was forced, but because Clark always had a reasonable explanation for why each person wasn't good for her. Sarah was earning all the money, every dollar. Clark never worked. He said it was beneath the family name to take a salary. She accepted that too. But here's what she didn't know. Every account was in her name, but he controlled every transaction. He decided what was spent and where. She earned millions. There were no savings, no investments, no financial future being built. The money flowed in through Sarah and flowed out through Clark. She was the engine, he was the drain. Then, their daughter was born. Clark refused to send the girl to school. He would homeschool her himself, he said. She didn't need other children. Other children were a distraction. The girl grew up in near total isolation. No classmates, no playdates, no outside world. Sarah started asking questions. Carefully, quietly. Clark's response was immediate. He screamed that if she ever tried to leave, he would take the girl. He would get full custody. He would make sure Sarah lost everything. She went silent. He had found the one thing she would not risk, and he used it every single time. This is what coercive control actually looks like. Not chains, not locks, just a very precise understanding of what a person cannot afford to lose, and the willingness to threaten it on repeat. She didn't leave. Not yet. But something had started to crack. Sarah had spent her career solving problems with data, so she did what she knew how to do. She hired a private investigator to find out who Clark really was. The investigator came back with nothing. Not much. Nothing. No birth records, no family documents, no school transcripts, no tax history. No trail of any kind connecting this man to the name he had been using her entire marriage. That report should have answered a question. Instead, it opened a void. She filed for divorce. The court awarded her custody of their daughter. It was supposed to be over. In the summer of 2008, Clark had a court-approved supervised visit with the girl in Boston. He arrived, he picked her up, and then he ran. He put their daughter in a car and vanished. The Federal Bureau of Investigation launched a manhunt, and when they started pulling the thread on Clark, the entire fabric came apart. Clark didn't exist. The name was a costume. The man wearing it had been someone else before. Multiple someone else's, a British aristocrat in California, a Hollywood television producer, a Wall Street trader. Each identity was a full performance, complete with props, stories, and social circles that never overlapped. They found him 6 days later in Baltimore. He had already become someone new, a ship captain named Chip. And then the investigators started looking further back, much further back. In the yard of a California property where he had once lived under another name, they found bones, human bones. A man who had disappeared in 1985. A man who had once rented him a room. The con hadn't started with Sarah. She was just the longest chapter. He was convicted of kidnapping in 2009, then convicted of first-degree murder in 2013. The sentence, 27 years to life. Sarah testified at both trials. She sat in the courtroom, facing the man she had been married to for 12 years, and told the truth plainly. She said he had controlled every dollar she earned. She said there were no savings. She said she had never once seen a document that proved he was who he claimed to be. A reporter asked her afterward how someone so intelligent could have missed it for so long. She said, "You mistakenly confused money with money. Power in a relationship goes far beyond money." She was right. And that line contains everything. Here is what actually happened inside that marriage, from a psychological standpoint. The first tactic was identity fabrication at scale. He didn't lie about one thing. He constructed an entire parallel reality. A name, a family, a history, a social position. And he used all of it as social armor. Because people don't typically question a Rockefeller. The name did the work for him. The second tactic was post-capture behavioral shift. He was charming and intellectually magnetic during courtship. The moment the marriage was secured, control replaced charm. This is a known pattern. The performance ends when the target is locked in. The third tactic was the hostage dynamic. He identified the one thing Sarah would not sacrifice, her daughter, and turned that love into a leash. 3 red flags you can watch for in your own life. First, someone who has no verifiable past and always has a smooth explanation for why. Second, someone who controls shared resources while contributing nothing and makes that feel normal. Third, someone who responds to any question about the relationship with a disproportionate threat. These are not personality quirks. These are load-bearing walls in a structure designed to hold one person in place. The most dangerous prisons are the ones where the door looks open. If this story made you stop and think about someone in your life, trust that feeling. Subscribe for more stories about the manipulation tactics most people never see coming.